It's amazing to see you, Nico, here in the Z Suite. What was it about Doug or about this series that drew you to be a part of it?
You know, Katie O'Brien, the showrunner and creator of the show, is actually a dear old friend of mine. We were friends for, God, more than 10 years, over a decade, back when we were still starving and struggling artists in Hollywood, like literally writing sketches at the basement of CBS, just like, you know, are we gonna make it someday? Who knows? But we've always wanted to work together. Um, we just didn't know how and when that was going to happen because we just have the same type of humor. And when she said that, she was creating this Z Suite show, and she sent me the script, and she's like, "Take a look at Doug." And I looked at Doug and I was like, "Oh my God!" Like Doug has so many great one-liners. I'm just like, I have to play this. Katie and I's humor are very, very similar. And, silly and absurd is my default. Like, I am not a serious person whatsoever. So when I read this character that was basically just like unhinged and absurd, like 99.9% of the time, I was like, this is a no-brainer. I have to do this. Plus the Lauren Graham of it all. Yeah, so I just said yes. It's great.
What kind of history then were you given between Doug and Monica and why they have such a bond together that Doug's willing to close everything down and restart with her?
Yeah. There wasn't much talk about like how they met and why they have such a strong bond. Um, we were just told like this is like, like a work husband, work wife relationship, as well as a BFF relationship outside of work. But for me, I really saw Doug as a person who is immensely talented, but doesn't have any confidence in himself. So the only way he shines, he thinks that he shines, is when he's around Monica, who is the sun to him. And he's like the moon. And he only gets his light from Monica. And he doesn't trust himself that he is just as shiny and bright as Monica. So he's sort of like he's still finding his confidence in his journey. Yeah, so that's how I sort of approached Doug, and I think it creates a really interesting dynamic between the two of them, approaching it from that way, and hopefully, if we get a season two and we get to explore the relationship, you sort of find out, like because we've been having talks of like, so what is like, how did they meet? Like what is the connector? So I really hope we get to explore that in future episodes.
Well, you talked about how brilliant Katie's writing is, and it's so good for this show. Did
So
she allow
good.
you much room then to improv, or is everything there on the page? You are like, Katie, I have to, I can't just.
There was a lot of improv, but a lot of the time, what was on the page was already so funny. And what was great was that, Katie really trusted us and just let us build on what she had already written, which was great because, there are some writers who are just like, please just say script word for word. And she was like, no, just do whatever you want. We have the scripted take. If you come up with something funnier, then we'll use that. If not, then we won't. So there was a lot of play on set, which is really like the way I love to work. Like, just let me be an idiot for like 5 minutes, and then if you like it, great. If not, sorry.
There are so many funny moments throughout the entire series, but there's also poignant ones as well. Is there a particular scene that you're most proud of the work you put into it, whether it's comedy or drama?
Um, I mean, in the pilot episode, I just remember a really fun moment where we are pitching, we're with the Monica and Doug are with the Z Suite, the Gen Z kids, and we're sort of brainstorming. That was a really long scene to shoot because Katie just let us like improvise, like like TikTok, TikTok. I mean, we just went over and over and like and just said the most ridiculous stuff, and I just had a lot of fun with that episode, with that scene, because we really just like for like 5, 7 straight minutes, just like like what about this? What about this? So that was a lot of fun. But there's a really tender moment later on in this season between Monica and Doug that is tender and also again absurd at the same time. And I was like, this is exactly my sweet zone, like sweet but stupid.
I mean, there's this sort of Jerry Maguire dynamic where, she's leaving and she's like, and who's coming with me? And you're like, Doug just has to go. He's willing to, give up this
I
career
mean,
he had
so what you're
together.
saying is I'm Renee Zellweger. Is that
That's right.
was what I'm
That's what I'm
hearing?
hearing.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing. Well, I'll take it. Uh, yeah,
What
it was totally a Jerry Maguire moment, and I was the only person willing to sort of like blow up my own life for Monica. Yeah.
I am curious, did they tell you much about Doug's personal life or what life is like for him when he comes home after being at the
I
office?
mean, not how many episodes have you seen so far? Just the two, or did they
Just the
send
two.
you just the two? Okay. I'm not sure what episode you find out his secret. Is that in the second episode? About, well, I won't tell you if you don't if you don't know. There was a particular bit
Yeah,
of
it's a second.
information. Oh, it's the second. Okay. So yeah, so that revelation of his obsession with Christmas was the only tidbit I was told about Doug. And which I thought actually fit in perfectly because I'm Filipino and Filipinos are obsessed with Christmas. Like we in the Philippines, they start playing Christmas music and decorating September 1st. No joke. So I was like, oh, this really is an easy tie-in for my character. So yeah, I mean, that was the only tidbit I knew of, and sort of just really had to build everything else from that. Because the character wasn't necessarily written Filipino, I don't think, because they didn't know if I was going to be casting it or not. So they kind of had to leave it a little open-ended, and that was the only like um, real tidbit that was given. And then once I was finally cast, then we were able to sort of put on the layers of like how this connects to his culture and his upbringing and all that. And we changed some stuff in the script.
So, as we talked about, it's so funny. You get those little laugh tears from all of the dynamics between everyone on the show. What do you think it is about the Z Suite that's just going to resonate with so many viewers? Whether it's that Gen Z who are like so confident, or is,
Yeah.
people, around our age where it's like, we have to start all over again at the same level.
Yeah. The generational divide is obviously a dynamic that's been around forever, but I think now more than ever, it's really sort of like um, really, really out there, and people can really feel that sort of divide between the generations, especially with what's going on politically and everywhere. Like there is a definite like different way of thinking between that side and this side. So I think people are going to tune in because of that. It's also like it's a little bit of escapism too. Like people need to be entertained right now, and people want to laugh. Um, and I think that's what's also going to draw people to it because it is, like I said, absurd. To me, it's kind of like 30 Rock meets younger is the tone that I'm getting from the show, which I think is just brilliant. Yeah, I think people are going to tune in to sort of like I mean, for me at least, it's been really interesting that I'm now on the other side of it. Like I can remember a day when I was so like, oh, these old fogies, they just don't get it. And now I'm like, what is Skibbity? What are you talking about? I don't understand. This is insane. Yeah, so it's nice to be like on the other side of things now.
I loved when you popped into St. Denis Medical. Is there a chance for us to see you return at some
Uh,
point?
I hope so. I hope so. That was such a fun episode to film. And also, finally, Filipino nurse representation, you know, all the entire community, even the non-Filipinos, have been telling the industry for a very long time. You gotta put a Filipino in a hospital. Have you not been to a hospital? And so I was really happy when Justin Spitzer, who co-created the show with Eric Legend, reached out to me and was like, "There's this role. Are you available?" And I was actually in Toronto filming Z Suite at the time. I was like, "I'm in Toronto. Like, could we work this out?" So between the productions, we were able to work it out. Excuse me.
And they speak
I
Tagalog in it too. They even give
Yes, Exactly, exactly. I feel very, very fortunate that in a lot of the projects I've been involved in, I've been able to really sort of like inject my culture into it and my language into it in a really organic way, not in the all of a sudden, like it's just a representation of real people and how they move about their lives, which is great. I hate it when you sort of inject something for like the lesson of it all. It's just like a very seamless integration of that, which I really appreciated. But I was glad that we were able to film it because I flew in on a Sunday, filmed my scenes Monday, Tuesday, then Wednesday I was back on Z Suite. It was a quick turnaround, but I would love to come back. That was a really amazing character. It resonated a lot with Filipinos and the medical profession. I got like 6,000 new followers overnight after that episode aired, and people are just like, I can't believe there's a Filipino on a medical show now. It's like, yeah, there is. And isn't it crazy that I think right now there's me and there's a Filipino nurse on the pit,
Yes, there is.
and that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, Grey's Anatomy never. What ER? I mean, they had like one episode, I think, but yeah.
From Superstore to Crazy Rich Asians to the Z Suite and in between, you have had such a special career. What would you like to say to people who continue to be such fans of your work? I mean, I popped into St. Dennis Medical and I was like, that's Nico! Like I was excited for you. I was so happy to see you on my screen.
Oh, thanks. I mean, I wish people will just continue to tune in whenever I'm in a project. I feel very, very fortunate and lucky and grateful, all those things that I do have the career that I have, as a little boy who just grew up in the Philippines to move to an entirely different country. And like none of this, was in my radar. I never dreamed about any of this. Like when I was just starting out in stand-up comedy, I just really thought like I just want to be able to pay my bills doing comedy. So if I can just like do a weekend at the club and then maybe work two shifts at the restaurant and just be able to pay my rent, then I'll be solid. And everything that's happened since then has just been like a pound of cherries on top of the sundae that I never thought was going to happen. So I'm just enjoying myself and just gonna see how long people are gonna let me be an idiot on screen. And as long as they let me be silly and pay me for it, I'll be there.
Well, you have to know you have a gift for all of those things. And
Thank
it's
you.
such an incredible, incredible career you've had. So you know you're doing what you were supposed to do.
Thanks. Yeah, I feel it.